Just giving people a few more moments here to join.
Not a problem.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Thabaitha Michael, and I am a community manager with AnitaB.org. Delighted to have you all here today. I am speaking to you from my dining room in Atlanta, Georgia. If you feel it, drop into the chat and let us know what part of the world you're calling in from today. Just like to know who our audience is. Hello, New York. So we've got the East Coast represented here. Canada, wonderful. So glad to have you all. Feel free to drop in where you're located. Would love to know where you are. Lots of New Yorkers, yes, Kentucky, beautiful. Thank you all so much for joining us from all over the country, all over North America, it looks like. We're bringing to you today a tech talk for Sisters. It's called Cracking the Code. And our presenter today is Daniela Beck. And Daniela is an impressive technologist who graduated recently from Chatham University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She had a double major in management information systems and international business. She held several entrepreneurships or internships, excuse me, I can't talk this afternoon, with Fortune 500 companies, started her own consulting business, attended the Grace Hopper celebration on a scholarship. So as I mentioned, quite impressive. And today she'll talk to us, share her wisdom with new students or with how students and young professionals can find opportunities like the ones that she's had. Please put any questions that you have into the Q&A and we'll address as many as we possibly can at the end of our session. And I'll be dropping a few links into the chat with how to get in touch with Sisters and AnitaB.org. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you, Daniela.
Okay, can you all hear me now? Yes, okay, great. So hi everyone, again, I'm just honored to be here today. My name is Daniela Beck, and today I'll be talking about cracking the code for your career. So I think, could you put the first poll question? I just want to get a sense of like who's in the room and what kind of experience everyone has. Yeah, so just vote for which type of person are you? Are you a student? Are you an early professional, mid-career, or an experienced professional? Give you a few minutes. Okay, maybe give it until like 4:10. See if some other people might join. Okay, awesome. Okay, yeah, everybody's sharing their LinkedIn profiles in the group. That's great. I probably should share mine as well. So let me just go ahead and do that. But okay. Right. Okay, we'll give it one more minute. Oh, okay, Megan, so I had the exact same problem getting into the chat. What you can try to do is either, so if this was happening to me on my laptop, so what I would recommend for you to do is either use another device or just call in, because I was on my Mac and it wasn't working, but it worked on my phone and then on another device. So if you can, if your friend has that capability, then I would recommend for her to try that. Okay, awesome. Okay, can we share the results now? Is that fine? I think it's been like 2 minutes. Okay, awesome. So we have 2/3 of you are students and a third of you are early professionals, which is what this talk is for. So that's great. Thank you everybody so much for sharing. So as I mentioned before, again, I'm Daniela Beck and thank you all for being here. And today we're going to be talking about cracking the code for your career, which is about how you as a student or a young professional can really make the most use out of your time, especially in our current stay-at-home virtual situation, and really make the most out of that opportunity. So a little bit about me. I should have put my LinkedIn profile here, but I'll be sure to tag it somewhere. But as I was introduced, I am originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where I am right now. Last December, I graduated from Chatham University in Pittsburgh. It's a small liberal arts school. And I studied MIS in international business there. Did my degree in 2.5 years. I also studied abroad, did some MBA courses, and really just had an incredible experience there. So it was a ton of fun. And then I've also been doing a lot of certification courses now. So some of them were for IU University that's based in Madrid, Spain. So I just finished 2 courses through them. And then I'll also be working on a course at MIT starting next week. So that's very exciting. Some other things that I've done. So I've been able to go to Grace Hopper 2 years in a row on scholarship through the Women in Tech Complimentary Registration Award. And it's just been a blast. And then this year I also hope to go. I also have been recognized by Google, Harvard Business School, Facebook, and a lot of other companies. And then work experiences. So my background is more, I would guess, in analytics and project management. So first internship I did was right after my freshman year. I worked at Wabtec, which is a large transportation company, and I worked in infrastructure, so essentially database administration. This is my third, but my second big internship was BlackRock last summer. I worked on the ACS, or Aladdin Client Services team, and there I was a summer analyst. And then currently I am interning at Bosch in the Chicago area, which I was living in right before I came back here. So I have like a lot of very broad experience, but I wouldn't say I'm a very like in-depth sort of person. That's a little bit about me. So now we're gonna get into our talk. So a lot of people, I know this is kind of a question that's thrown around. What is the secret for professional success? And for me, it's really in 3 distinct ways. So the first part is putting yourself out there by creating content. The second part is networking. And the last part would be facing imposter syndrome head on, because I believe that all 3 of these aspects together can make anybody, even if you don't go to the biggest university or you're not from like the biggest area, can really give you a ton of opportunities. So the first aspect we're going to be talking about today is creating content online. So I get this question a lot from people who might not understand content creation, might not understand like Facebook groups, Slack, LinkedIn, etc. And they're just really confused about what value does it bring to my life. But for me, it's just given me just so many opportunities I can't even describe. So there's a lot of reasons, but I kind of whittled it down to these 5. So the first would be establishing and growing your own personal brand. So for me personally, in about, I would say 1.5 years, I've expanded from about 200 LinkedIn connections to about almost 5,000 LinkedIn connections. So it's been a really great experience for me to really grow not only the depth and the breadth of people that I'm connected to, not only in the United States, but across the world, but also really starting to understand like, what is my signature? What am I passionate about? So it started as creating content about books, for example. and then translating into other areas as time went on. And also being able to really discover that my passions in project management and analytics, and also realizing too that I really enjoyed helping other students and young professionals succeed, which is why I'm here. The second aspect is being easily recruited for internships and full-time positions. So I know, especially with the current situation, this is something that a lot of you are probably thinking about, myself included. So I have been really fortunate through, for example, LinkedIn, Facebook groups to get referrals for different positions, more so for full-time than internships, because I've been more involved with this later on in my academic career and my undergraduate studies. But I actually received a LinkedIn message from a Google recruiter for a very just amazing role. And although I didn't end up getting the position, it was just a lot of fun. Got to do the interviews, got to go on site. And I just tell people all the time, like, you never know who's watching, because you might not like or comment your post, but you know, people are gonna see you out there. It might be a connection of a connection of a connection, but that can change your life. And for me, I never expected, you know, I went to a really small school that had like no people in my major. And to be interviewing at Google was just incredible. The third aspect is receiving opportunities to attend conferences and other events. And the best part is that oftentimes it's free or at a very minimal cost. So for me, through my networks, I've been able to learn about Grace Hopper, because I didn't know what it was until I did actually a scholarship program through Google, heard about it, applied for the free ticket, got it, and then got it the second year. And then my school actually sponsored me the rest of the way, which was incredible. So that, and then also a bunch of different conferences have provide like these free conference passes. You get them, and then oftentimes my university would sponsor me. So that was really great. Not only going to different parts of the country, I love to travel, but also being able to meet such incredible students and young professionals. The fourth aspect would be meeting mentors and other senior professionals in your area of interest. So for me, I really like project management, and through my network, I was able to meet a lot of people who have the PMP certification, that worked as project managers in the field for over 10, 15, 20 years. And I really got a chance to learn about them. Oftentimes, if it wasn't connecting through my content, maybe it was like a connection of a connection that saw my interests and wanted to reach out to me. So that's been really incredible. And then the last point is becoming an expert in a particular domain. And I actually attended a talk like this probably about a week ago that really solidified this for me as well, because they were saying, well, if you go on, let's say, LinkedIn or, you know, the community Slack channel, and you are sharing knowledge about new books, or you're sharing knowledge about new technologies, if you keep doing that with consistency, over time, people are going to find that extremely valuable and extremely helpful, and you might become an expert. So that is something else that is really amazing. All right, so you might be wondering or asking, how do I start? Because on LinkedIn, on these other platforms, it can get very daunting when you see, oh my God, these people are posting all this stuff and I don't even know like how to start. So I kind of whittled it down into 3 steps. So the first step is to see what other people are posting. And I think this is important in a lot of ways. Number 1, maybe it can give you more confidence. And number 2, you can kind of see like what's working, what are you passionate about, what other people are really putting on the platform. So what I recommend is start following people that you know. And then maybe if there's like a connection of a connection that really stands out to you, for example, a thought leader, follow them. This can be in your chosen career field or not, but really just find people that can inspire you to be the best that you can be. And then also jot down notes of what not only inspires you, like I mentioned before, but what catches your attention. So maybe it's the fact that this person, although they're an executive at this big company, they mentor students, or maybe it's because this person, they share a lot of valuable information about how to prepare for interviews or how to land a job at XYZ company that you're very interested in, or they share a lot of interesting articles about your interests, whether that's in data analytics or software engineering or DevOps. These are all things that maybe you can see and then implement in your own unique way into your own content. The second point I have here is engaging with those role models. So those thought leaders can become your role models, and they can become the people that you end up having really good relationships with over time. So I would start by not just liking, not just commenting, not just saying, great job, congratulations, that's really cool. Like, that's nice and that's heartwarming, but it doesn't really add value. And value is something we're going to be talking about a lot in this presentation, because that's what really drives a lot of these content creation and networking aspects. So for example, reach out with a personalized connection request. Say, hey, I saw your thing on XYZ. It was really interesting. I'd love to chat more about it. Or a comment that says, hey, I have this other resource and I think it can be really helpful for what you're trying to do or what you're interested in. Just something that, I mean, it doesn't take a ton of time. It can be a few sentences, but if you do that repeatedly enough, over time, people are going to notice. And you might think, oh, but they'll never see me. They have like a couple tens or hundreds of comments. Like, we notice. Don't worry. And then finally, start posting your own content. So how I did this is I kind of identified areas that I kind of wanted to learn about. So for me, it was books. Because I actually saw a LinkedIn post, this was December 2018, about what was one goal you wanted to do by the end of the year. And I said, I wanted to read a book, because to be honest with you, I wasn't reading that much, well, except for school and university at the time. But I hadn't really done it for my own personal development, and that's something I wanted to get back into. And then a friend of mine actually gifted me a Woman in Tech book, which was great. And then I saw one of these thought leaders from the first two steps that I was connected with. And this was around the time when LinkedIn was creating those LinkedIn video for the first time, and they were rolling that out. And I was really interested, but kind of scared. So I actually reached out to him. We had a call. He explained to me kind of like what was his process of creating a video. And then from there, I just went for it. So that's kind of how you start. It's not like a crazy formula or rocket science. It's really just about putting yourself out there and making sure you're surrounded with those support systems. All right, so again, what are my tips for creating content now that you're out here and you're putting yourself out there and you're just trying to really just engage? So the first step would be identify your audience. This is really important. So this kind of goes back to the first slide where we were talking about how to identify your passions. So let's say like me, you're really interested in business technology. Maybe for you, it might be blockchain, might be any other number of things. So identify your kind of your theme, and then also to your audience. So that could be college students, helping them find internships and jobs and scholarships. You might be somebody who's interested in connecting with marketing professionals and in connecting with software engineers. So try to kind of see how these two elements really go hand in hand, because this really gives you more focus and more direction. So rather than you're posting all this random stuff, it's not that helpful. But if you post something that's more, I don't think you have to put it as like a cookie cutter type thing, but if it's something that's more, how do I say, more centralized, it's a lot easier to just be more like committed to doing it, but also and actually even enjoy it. And the last step I have is just staying consistent. So in the beginning, especially I think the first probably 3 or 4 months of myself and other people who post content, we would only get maybe 2, 5, 10 likes and like no comments. And it's kind of wears you down a little bit at the beginning, because you think, oh, nobody's listening to me, I don't have any value. But yeah, just stay consistent. A lot of content creators, we've also been through the same sort of problem. But eventually over time, like you'll start to learn what works, what doesn't work, and implementing that into your kind of like your strategy. And then after that time, you'll end up growing an audience. All right, so part 2 is about networking. So now that you are starting to put yourself on the platform, you're starting to engage with people, liking, bringing valuable comment value adds, really starting to create your own content. The next step is really being able to leverage this community that you're hopefully building over time. So how do I network with professionals? So I know I put this between online and in person, but I know online is pretty much our lives anymore. So I want to just dive into that first. So online, so as I mentioned before, send personalized connection requests, please, because this is something that will really truly set you apart from everyone else. So if you can just say, this can be maybe 2 or 3 sentences. Hey, I saw your comments on XYZ. I was very interested in this topic and I'd love to have like a informational 10-15 minute chat with you. And most people are going to say yes to that. And it really does catch my attention when people actually reach out to me with more focus. So that's definitely helpful. And another thing too that I'd like to add is, I didn't mention this before, but don't reach out to somebody out of the blue. I would recommend that you have some mutual connections with them, or if you don't, start just commenting on their posts and getting some of their attention before you send a personalized connection request, because then it's easier for that person to identify you with your subject matter, or, oh, this person, I've kind of seen this person around and they're really valuable and I think I can learn a lot from them. So that's kind of how I decide how to add people. Another tip is joining webinars like this one, which you all were doing earlier, which is great, thank you. Live sessions, so I know on LinkedIn, for example, a lot of these big content creators have been hosting live sessions, which is really great because it's more of like a Q&A sort of forum throughout the whole presentation. And then also numerous virtual communities. So whether that's here at B2B Sisters or other communities that I'll be going on later in our conversation today, those are all really great to meet people with similar interests, which you can then network with, both horizontally on your same level, but also vertically. So people above you and people below you. In person, so definitely come with edited resumes and a concise elevator pitch. And I'll be honest with you, the elevator pitch is also very helpful in the virtual sphere as well, because whenever you go on these community forums on Facebook, on Slack, etc., a lot of times you have to introduce yourself. So if you have a couple sentences being like, hey, I'm a student, I study this and that at this university, I'm very passionate about this. Previously, I've done this and I'm looking forward to do this. And it can just be very simple, very straightforward. But it is very helpful to have that online so that people understand like what you're interested in and what value you bring to the table. And then resumes, I think also a lot of people are probably applying online right now. And as I say, probably just make a shell for the different types of roles that you're applying for. So my own personal experience last fall would be like project management, business analytics, data engineering. And then from there, I would sort of have these 3 shells and then cater it to each company. So utilizing the keywords that are in the job description and putting them in your resume is really helpful. And then finally, meeting people through career fairs and conferences like Grace Hopper, because I know it's been kind of crazy, but once we get back to normal again, my favorite thing about Grace Hopper was just being in these coffee lines at 7 a.m., people that I was staying in the same house with, together during the conference. And it was just really great to have those sorts of networking moments, even if they weren't like planned or like, oh, I go to the Facebook booth and I meet these Facebook professionals. Sometimes it can be very impromptu, but those impromptu moments can really change your life. All right, as far as what communities should you follow, so this really depends on your personal interests and aspirations. But for me, okay, sorry, there's a train behind me. But for me, it really comes back to these are just 5 examples, but I'm sure you can find many others online. So first, obviously, I have to give credit to Anita B, Sisters, and local communities. So last time at GHC, I actually became a member because they had like a free membership session. And through that, I was really able to kind of expand to the next level, because sometimes at these big conferences, it's hard to really stay connected with people afterward because it's just a blur. So local communities has been really helpful in strengthening those bonds I have with people after the event. So personally, I was part of the Chicago local community when I was living there and will return there. And then also I'm a part of Sisters, which is why I'm here. So those are 2 I would definitely look into. The next one is one that I'm very involved with called Rewriting the Code. So this is for undergraduate women and also graduate women who are interested in technical fields. So you don't have to be like a CS major, like there's engineering majors, there's business majors, just people who have a technical interest. And this organization, they have like a lot of peer support, a lot of scholarships, mentorship opportunities. But they also, what's really unique about them is their partnerships with big companies, which can help you get internships and jobs. So I actually got a referral for my full-time job and also a couple other full-time job offers through this organization. So they're very good. Another one I recommend is Women Who Code. So this isn't an organization that I'm necessarily a big part of, but I do recommend them if you can join a local chapter. So I actually was on another call about 2 weeks ago from the chapter in Boston where a connection of mine was presenting. So that was really fun. And they have a lot of great content geared towards women in tech. This one down here is called Built by Girls. So this is a group for women and non-binary individuals between the ages of 16 and 22. And this is sort of like a mentorship program. So they pair you with professionals. So I've been paired with professionals from Amazon, Uber, and Verizon. And this is essentially a 3-month-long program for each cycle where you have one-on-one chat per month. And then this happens for 3 months. And then you do it a total of 3 times. So it's like a 9-month program. And that has been really good. Not only the mentorship, of course, but also the community. And then finally, our Journey Through Code is for Black and Latina students and young professionals interested in technical careers. They do a lot of great like IG Live events, et cetera, et cetera. And what I can add is that this is just really a beginning, a couple I thought of, but if you have more specific interests, like definitely do some research online, utilize your community and your network that you're hopefully building through the other steps. And through here, you'll also hear of other whole communities and groups, whether on LinkedIn, Facebook, Slack, etc., that you can really find interesting to you. All right, and then finally, how do you keep the conversation going? So for me, I can, again, sort of whittle this down into 3 parts. So first, reach out regularly to people. So this can be, usually I recommend maybe if somebody gets a new job, they get promoted, you know, maybe they have like a really great piece of content. Yeah, it's definitely cool to reach out to people, message them, get on a chat with them, and just see how their lives are going. Because this is how you really build rapport with people, as I mentioned down here, which is pretty much the lifeblood of networking. Another suggestion too, commenting on posts and commenting often and with value. So this is also incredibly useful and incredibly helpful. And the last thing is building rapport. So any relationship, right, whether personal or professional, it's going to take time to build. So even if you don't get great results after a week, a month, or 2 to 3 months, don't give up. Because oftentimes, like I mentioned at the beginning, you don't know who's looking, right? And this can be your next employer. This can be somebody like a future classmate. This can be, you know, somebody who just opens a door for you for a scholarship or an internship. So definitely just keep your eyes and ears wide open and definitely just build relationships with people. Okay, so the last part is about facing imposter syndrome. And could you put the last poll question, please? So I just want to kind of get a sense for like how often we experience imposter syndrome in this group. Okay. I can't answer, but you all can answer. I'll give you like 2 minutes. See if there's any questions in here I can address in on the Q&A. I'll go into the chat. Oh, awesome. Thank you everybody so much for your groups to join. This will be really helpful because I haven't heard of some of these groups like Tech Ladies. I'm seeing, I think, Novera, could you share the link to that group? That would be awesome. Women in Tech World. Yeah, GHC is great. Sisters Anita B. That's awesome. But if anybody has any other ideas, like let's all help each other. So another group that I would recommend is Tequeria. So Tequeria is for Latino professionals in STEM, and they're really great too. Their Slack page is great. If you want me to include the link for that, I can. Okay, Google Tech Makers, yes. I think what I like more about Google Tech Makers is actually their newsletter. Yes, I will include the link. All right. Yeah, but yeah, Tickety is good. Tech Makers, their thing is good. There's this newsletter I follow called Code with Veni. It's VENI, and they're also pretty good. They have like a lot of interesting resources on there. Also, Coding Blonde is one that I've started to follow more and more. So she's actually a digital nomad. I think she lives in Chile now, but she posts a lot of good content on Instagram, and then she also has a newsletter, which is pretty cool. You can be on the newsletter, which is the most fun part, so I really recommend that. Okay, great. All right, I think we are good. Do you mind sharing the results? Yeah, I figured this was going to be the answer. So yeah, thank you everybody for your honesty, because I feel this all the time. And especially if you're not like the big CS major who goes to a big school and has like, you know, all sorts of opportunities, and you might feel really down. And even if you do, like, you might get into situations, and I still do, I get into situations where it's still like, I feel like I'm the dumbest person in the room. So I know I definitely understand that for sure. So we can come to the next slide. So I was doing some initial research here and just seeing these headlines about like how a ton of women and a ton of people in general just suffer from imposter syndrome, which I think, you know, men or women, but more women, I would say, non-binary people experience this a lot more. So here's kind of my 3-tiered approach to how you can overcome imposter syndrome. There's definitely not a clear-cut answer to this because for me, I still struggle with it at times. But I guess 3 things that would help is, number 1, recognizing your value. So for example, you have value to bring to the table. Even if you're a student, for example, if you're a college student, you can help high school students figure out, what is this major? What kind of classes do you take? What kind of experiences, you know, do you recommend that I do? You can help them. If you're a young professional, guess what? You can help college students kind of figure out, is this the right career for me? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? Because for me, that was incredibly helpful. You know, not only talking with students, but also other students telling me like about product management, for example, because that was an area I was kind of interested in, didn't really know. And then I started connecting with people, learning more about it, being able to interview for it. And it was just a really good experience. So definitely like recognize what you're passionate about and what you can talk about experience-wise, and then feel free to share that with other people. So for myself personally, it's been about different internships that I've had, different conferences that I've attended, also to just like interview advice. So yeah, just realize that, yeah, even if you had experienced like a really tough interview, like still share that with other people, because that's valuable. So other people, and yourself included, could be more prepared the next time an interview like that or a situation like that rolls around. Also, the second point is connecting with others that have similar experiences. So if you face imposter syndrome, connect with other people who also experience imposter syndrome, and maybe work together to sort of lift each other up and tell each other, hey, I've dealt with this too, so that you don't feel alone. Because a lot of times I've felt alone, probably a lot of you have felt alone, and it's challenging. You know, if you don't have people around you that can support you and really encourage you as you embark on your careers and your studies, or just wherever you are in life right now. So having those support groups, whether it's those online communities, those in-person communities, or just whatever you can find solace in, is really great. And then the last step, I was telling people I try to be my own hype woman, which I know is kind of cheesy, which it is, but just believe in yourself, hype yourself up, you can do it. So that is it from my presentation. So I just wanted to thank everybody so much for coming, and I'm going to break the floor for Q&A. Awesome. So I guess we can start the Q&A. No. Okay, can you read the questions for me? I'm trying to click on Q&A and it's not letting me. I think we have 3 questions.
We do. The first one is, how often do you connect with your connections? How do you maintain organic relationships with them?
That's a good question. So for me, I connect with my connections. So the thing is, that kind of depends on like A, how many you have, and B, how close you are to them. So definitely the ones that I'm closer with, like consulting people, so different communities, like consulting, rewriting the code. I connect with them pretty frequently. I would say maybe like 1 to 2 times a week. But if it's somebody that maybe I met at a conference, or maybe somebody I'm not like super involved with, probably maybe 1 month, every 2 months, or again, whenever these sort of events happen, like they get a promotion, they change jobs, if they had a really cool accomplishment, those are times that you can really reach out to people, and it just seems more genuine to reach out at those times rather than just out of the blue. But I definitely recommend you can also just reach out to people whenever and have a chat. Most people are more than happy to talk with you, especially if they're professionals. And then the second part of the question about how to grow organically or have organic relationships, it's definitely, like I said, bringing value to the table, understanding what you know or what you want to know, and then just being curious. Like, ask questions, get to know people, because sometimes it might seem like, oh, this isn't a very kind of a dumb question, or oh, maybe this person is like so advanced in their field, maybe this is like really basic. But oftentimes those are like the best questions to ask. So definitely do that, because oftentimes if you have a question, then usually like 3 to 5 other people also have the same questions. You're actually benefiting yourself by getting that information, and then you can share that with other people. So you're only growing yourself even more. Okay.
Really good advice, Daniela. The next question is, what is a comment with value versus a comment that has no value?
Good question. So favorite example, let's say you post an opportunity. Let's say there's a conference, Grace Hopper's coming up, right? And you're giving tips on how to be successful at the conference, or how to write a scholarship essay to get in the conference, right? A lot of times something that has no value will be, for example, oh, that's awesome, cool, or hey, yeah, that was really interesting, thanks. Like, it's like kind of just like, how do I say, it's sort of like giving a thumbs up to somebody, but it's not really adding value. So something that would add value would be, for example, hey, like another tip that I would have in the shoes would be this and that, or hey, maybe even reaching out to the person if you're interested in learning more and kind of seeing from their experience, or sharing other opportunities and resources. So I know for Grace Hopper example, there's Hoppers, there's the volunteering where you can get admission, there's GHC Scholars, there's the Women in Complementary Registration, and there's also different companies like Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. They will also be giving free scholarships for students to attend. So just add value and bring something like that to the table that's going to enhance the conversation that's already going on.
The next question is how to find a mentor.
How to find a mentor. So this is really tough because for me, it's been kind of a mix between regular mentorship programs and just organic connections. So as I mentioned before, there's a couple different resources for finding a mentor. For example, Built by Girls, if you're eligible for that, that's like straight up mentorship. I also know other groups like Rewriting the Code that have their own sort of like mini mentorship programs, which is pretty fun. And then the other side of that would be organic relationships. So one of my close mentors and friends, one of her famous quotes is like, don't go and ask somebody, hey, can you be my mentor? Because it sounds kind of cliche. But instead, like I mentioned before, try to develop a relationship with them. Have an informational interview and ask them, hey, like, what do you do at your job? What's the most challenging thing? What do you enjoy the most? And then from there, you can sort of reach out to these people over time and build that relationship. And then at the end of the day, they might become your mentor and you might not even notice. So that's something I definitely recommend to people, because before I thought, oh, it has to be through either I need to ask somebody directly or I need to be in one of these programs. But it definitely doesn't have to be that way. It just takes time and just passion.
And you may have just spoken to the next question, which is how to follow up with a mentor.
Following up with mentors. So I said definitely keeping consistency. So maybe For example, if you are in one of these arranged sort of commitments, like built by girls, rewriting the code, etc., definitely like following up on your commitments, reaching out to people, you know, when it's like the time to call, or like when you're regularly scheduled meeting time. If not, like one of my favorite things to do would be just to sometimes just like text people and ask them how they're doing. So I have a mentor from one of these like structured programs that I met last summer, and I still like chat with her here and there, because she really, at the end of our relationship, she really left like an open door, like, hey, like I know you're looking for full-time jobs, like let me know how it goes. And when I accepted an offer, it was just, she was just so elated, jumping for joy. She's like, wow, that's great, congratulations, because it's really awesome. Even if it's like after the program's over, it's really awesome to like still have relationships with people and still be able to see like how you and them are growing over time.
I really love this next question because we've been so positive, which is wonderful.
Yes.
But let's see, Tashima is wondering, how did you deal with job rejections?
Oh God, yeah, great question. So a lot of you might think, you know, I get everything, I apply for all these scholarships, I get in everything, get in all the jobs, all the internships. No, that's not true at all. I actually get rejected far more times than I get accepted. And there's been a few occasions, both internships and full-time positions, where I actually received an offer. I received a job offer and I was going to take it, and I was so excited, and then the job offer fell through. And this was before COVID, but I've also been impacted because of COVID with an internship that I had gotten in January. So it's definitely been tough. And to be honest, yes, it's okay to like mourn, I guess, a little bit, you know, just like processing the emotion of rejection, because it is hard. Sometimes, you know, after that, you can kind of identify what maybe you could have done better. So there was famous example that I use was an interview I did at Google, and I had a design interview, like a systems design interview, and I had never done one of those before, and I completely bombed the interview. There was another time too, oh God, at Goldman Sachs, where I was applying for an internship and completely bombed the interview, the virtual hire view interview, because I had never done one of those before, but I ended up getting a full-time offer later on, which is pretty cool. So definitely like using it as learning lessons, and then just taking that going forward. So learning about systems design, learning about HireVue, how the platform works, how to be more successful. Those are like those lessons at the end of the day where you can really take and then apply to your future endeavors. So it's definitely not the end of the road. And as I said before, there's also been times where it might have been like a year ago, I got rejected by a company, and then the year later, I try again and I get accepted. I think there was one company in particular that I applied probably over 15 to 25 times before I got accepted into their internship program. So definitely like keep trying, because oftentimes it does take a couple of attempts to get in.
Definitely sounds like persistence is key.
Yeah, persistence definitely, and just determination, absolutely.
Do you normally connect with people via email or phone?
I like phone better, because you kind of get more of like it's more of a personal touch to a kind of like this connection sort of thing. So definitely what I try to do is to take people I meet online, so whether that's at LinkedIn, events like these, like Facebook groups, and then try to like talk with them on the phone or do like a FaceTime with them, because then I don't know, it's like more personal. You get to understand them more as a person, right? So rather than just seeing it on a screen or on an email, you really get to like develop that rapport, which can really help increase your networking and your personal branding.
It's a great segue into the next question. LinkedIn has definitely evolved from a platform for accomplishments to stories.
Yes.
Do you think it's evolving to a career personal diary? And if so, do you think this would work with its professional reputation?
Yes, that's an amazing question, actually. Thank you so much for whoever put that. Yeah, I think it is growing into a professional sort of of course, like there are certain things like you don't want to put on LinkedIn for obvious reasons, but definitely like it's okay to share your rejections on LinkedIn. So I remember around the time, for example, I was posting about how I was kept getting rejected for full-time positions. And definitely sharing your insights, sharing your stories about those failed job interviews, those failed scholarship essays, those failed even classes or even jobs that you lose, like that adds sometimes more value than people just saying, I got a job at Microsoft, I got a job at Google, because that helps people learn, okay, how did you actually get there? How did you prepare the next time around after you got rejected, right? So I definitely feel that the platform is going in that sort of way. And then as far as how LinkedIn is kind of progressing, I think, yes, it's definitely going in that direction. And I think it's totally fine given the professional nature of the platform, because with any sort of social media, kind of the goal is to build engagement, right? And if you just have people saying accomplishments and cool things they're doing, that doesn't really build an engagement. When people are more personal and people are more vulnerable, it definitely segues into more engagement. So something that LinkedIn is actually trying to do more of, LinkedIn Lives, as some of you know, some people have beta access and they can do that. It's more of like a Q&A forum type of environment, which drives a lot of engagement. Another thing that I just heard today that they're trying to do is implement like, you know how Facebook, you can like put your profile photo as like a video sort of thing, or on YouTube, how content creators will have like those short intro videos on their page and talk about who they are. And it's essentially like a virtual elevator pitch or introduction almost. So I think it's definitely going into that more of a personalized environment versus being like strictly black and white and professional.
And I think our final question is, do I need to send a thank you note every time I talk to my mentor?
So that's definitely nice. Like it's great if you can send a thank you, like that's awesome. You don't have to all the time though. Definitely don't feel like pressure to do that or anything, but it's definitely something that a lot of people really value, because oftentimes you put this effort and sometimes it's like, oh, you don't really know if people are noticing or not, but you know, you say, hey, thanks for sharing that with me. I found this thing that you said really valuable. That makes people's day, right? So I definitely recommend that if you can.
There was one last question. I'm responding to it in chat, but there was a question. Namita, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing your name, is from India, and she'd like to know more about the Grace Hopper Scholarship Program.
Yes, we can talk about that. Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Daniela.
Yeah, sure.
Because you've experienced it.
Yes. So I didn't know what Grace Hopper was about 2 years ago. Well, yeah, 2 years ago. I didn't know what it was at all. And then I was part of this Grow with Google scholarship, and we had a Slack page which had like different scholarships, resources, etc. And that's how I found out about what it was. So through there, like I said, there's different opportunities. So I think one that's open right now, still I think through May 15th, is the Women in Color Complimentary Registration Pass, which is essentially free. It's like a free pass to the conference, which is great this year, I think better than ever, because prior to this year, like if it wasn't virtual, you would still have to pay for your transportation, your food, your living expenses, pretty much everything else besides the ticket. But then this year it's just going to be for the ticket, which is all you need, which is great. So essentially that is a pretty short application asking for, you know, your name, address, what kind of school you go to, what's your background. So this is specifically catered towards minorities, as well as people who work in startups or are transitioning between jobs. And then they also ask, I think it's like 2 open-ended questions where they ask about like, what are your experiences? And then what are you gonna bring back to your community after Grace Hopper? So it's very quick, it's like 10 to 15 minutes. And it honestly was like one of the best sort of things that I've ever done for myself. Like first year I went in Houston in 2018, like it just opened. So I actually didn't get any sort of job offers or anything that year, but it really opened a lot of doors for meeting people. And it really gave me a lot of experience, so that when I went last year, I definitely understood kind of like the nuance of the conference and how to navigate it a little bit better. So I definitely recommend like if you can go, like, please go. And then also, I think they're closed, but they usually have like a number of other opportunities. And then for India, I think they have Grace Hopper India, which is like a completely separate entity that happens later in the year, but they also provide like similar scholarship programs. I don't know a lot about that, but I'm sure if you go on the NADB website, you can learn more about those opportunities.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yes, please check on needtobe.org for more information about all these wonderful things that Danielle is mentioning.
Yes.
That was the last of the questions, Daniela.
Okay, awesome. I think there's one more in Q&A. Did you cover that one, or?
Let's see. I think we covered them all.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I think, before I go, let me share my LinkedIn in the chat so that everybody can connect with me after this is over. Yeah, that should be it. Or if not, just like look me up after this and like you'll see my face, you'll know it's me. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. It's been a pleasure being here today. And again, I'm my deepest and happiest gratitude towards Anita B and the Sisters organization for letting me do this. This has really been a goal of mine for a while, to be able to do a presentation with such a big organization that I respect and I admire. So thank you so much. And I hope that everybody has a great rest of their day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to connect with you all soon. All right.
Thank you for joining. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.